Hi, hi, hi. Welcome to my channel. In this channel, I'm going to go by Miss Richito or Miss Richito. And my goal really is to encourage those who are learning languages by sharing, in particular, my experience with learning Spanish and what I did, and how I became fluent in Spanish. I'm still kind of wary of using this word fluent because again there are still situations that can arise where I don't have the vocabulary, but yes, I can communicate no problem with native speakers of Spanish. And it's interesting because when people meet me, I'm usually with like some of my Spanish speaking friends or I'm speaking Spanish or what have you. And the first question is always, where are you from? Like every single time, which is great because a lot of me feels like, wow, I've really got this accent down. They can't pick up right away that I'm American. I'm sure if they got me in conversation long enough, they could. But very often I get asked, where are you from? And when I tell people, oh, I'm from the US, born and raised, my family's from Jamaica, but yes, I'm speaking Spanish, they're very confused. And I get another question, which is, how did you learn Spanish? Like, your Spanish is really good. And so I thought I'd share some tips with how I embarked on this journey, how I continue to embark on this journey, and what I've really done to learn Spanish. I know that on YouTube I've seen a lot of different videos, a lot of different people share their experiences with Spanish. But I think my little method, or the five main things that I did, I think are a little bit different than what a lot of other people have mentioned. And so I just wanted to share my own experiences with Spanish. So a little background, I'm 26 years old. I was born and raised in New Jersey, so I live in New Jersey. I'm in the US. I went away to school in New York, so I was not in Jersey for a little bit, for college, for university. But now I'm back in Jersey. And the benefit of being where I am in New Jersey is that there is a large Latin American community, and there are a lot of Spanish speaking people that you bump into on a regular basis. So the opportunity is here. Um, but yeah, enough kind of blabbing. I just want to talk about the five major things that I did to help me in my Spanish learning journey. Um, Oh, a little bit more background before I get into that. I did study Spanish in high school. Left high school still unable to speak Spanish. I studied for 4 semesters in college. I left college knowing all the grammar, but still unable to speak Spanish. And so it was 2 years ago that I decided I wanted to learn to speak. And you'd be surprised, within 2 years, I've made a lot of progress. So the first thing I did, the day that I decided I want to speak Spanish, I took my computer, my iPad, and my cell phone and changed the setting to Spanish. I know, it's like, how did you do that? How could you do that? But my thinking was, I hate books. I hate studying. I hate having to memorize vocabulary lists, flashcards. Like, that wasn't going to be my thing. I just found that method of language learning to be extremely boring. And very often that's the method that we use. That's exactly what we think of when we think of learning a language. But I didn't want to do anything that was boring. For me, learning Spanish was really a hobby. There was no requirement. I didn't need it for anything in particular. It was really just a hobby. And I decided I didn't want to use any books. So turned my cell phone, iPad, and computer all into Spanish. At first, it was extremely difficult, especially when I would have, I think one time I had an issue with my computer and I asked a friend to help and they were like, oh, it's all in Spanish. How do you get to this? And I didn't even know because I was just getting accustomed to the vocabulary in Spanish for like window, ventana, or file, archivo. Like I didn't know these words. So it was really hard. But I think it's something everyone can do because number one, we use our what do you call it? We use our electronics on a daily basis. We use our cell phones, we use our computers. And so I knew it was something I would be constantly looking at over and over and over again. And so I wanted to force myself to be studying Spanish. And also, because we use them so often, we really have an idea of where things are. Like on your phone, I have an idea of where settings is. And so when I see the word has changed, I know, oh, that's the word for settings. So it forced me into Spanish right away. So that's number one. Number two, I joined the italki.com community. ITALKI, italki, italki in Spanish, community. And it's great. It's really a community online for language exchange. You meet a lot of people who are serious about language learning. You do have to be careful. Not so much on italki, but other language learning sites I've been on, I have met kind of creepy people, or people who are, want to get married to an American, or, weird things like that. I have met them, and so you do need to be careful. But at the same time, this was a community of people who were serious about language learning, italki. So I never had problems at that particular site. But again, if you're using language learning communities, just be smart about information you share and what have you. But on this website, italki.com, I met people who wanted to learn English and who knew Spanish. And so we would set up Skype exchanges, 30 minutes in Spanish, 30 minutes in English. I correct them with their English, they correct me with Spanish. And through it, I made friends. I mean, there are people on that site that I met on that site that I still talk to and still speak Spanish with to practice today. And I met them a year and a half, 2 years ago. So for me, it was really, really great. I think as an American or as someone who speaks English, you have an advantage because so many people out there are trying to learn English. And I found, even on a side note, I've started to venture into Portuguese a little bit. And even with Portuguese, Brazilians are throwing themselves at me on a regular basis to help me with Portuguese because they want to learn English. So that community helped me a lot. Number 3, I took my iPod, my phone, deleted any music on there that was in English. My brother and sister hated me for this. My parents probably hated me for it because anytime it was like, anytime it was like I'm driving in the car, driving them somewhere, or I'm at their house and I'm playing music, it's always in Spanish because music in English did not exist on my devices. And this was intentional, forcing me to practice the pronunciation, how do the words flow, sing along, all of that helped me tremendously. So all the music I have to this day now, all my music is in Spanish or Portuguese. I'm learning Portuguese now, so I've kind of replaced most of the Spanish music with Portuguese, but there's no music in English on my devices. Number 4, I started attending a Spanish-speaking church. Now, I know this is going to be difficult for a lot of people. A lot of you won't have the opportunity to attend a church in the language that you're studying, especially when you're not in that country. Like, I'm in the U.S., but I was able to find a church that has services completely in Spanish. A church where half the population doesn't even speak English, so I have to speak Spanish with them in order to communicate. So that will be unique for your situation, but I say if you don't have a church that you can go to, maybe there's, some kind of community organization or some club, like a soccer club or some sports club or something that you can join where the majority of the members speak the language that you are aiming for, because it forces you to make friends who speak that language and then speak to your friends in that language. And so for me, it was great because a lot of my friends now are people who don't know much English or are Spanish-speaking people. And so if I have questions, I can ask them. I can talk to them in Spanish. I see them every week, and we're always communicating in Spanish. And now I'm at the point, I'm so involved in that church. I work with the youth ministry there, and I do it all in Spanish. So it's amazing to see where Spanish has taken me in this journey. I've been there for about 2 years now. And the last thing, the 5th tip, or the 5th thing I did that really helped me, I did register for Spanish courses at the local community college. I have read a lot of blogs, or I've seen a lot of language learning videos where people have been like, classes didn't really help me. I don't want to learn all the grammar. I want to learn to speak. I want to be out there with the native speakers. Yes, that makes sense, and that's great, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, the grammar is important, and it is important to know how to construct the sentences, how to write essays, formal essays in Spanish or in the language that you are studying. And so for me, I wanted to take those courses to force myself to do that. I have met people on italki or through the internet in the language learning community who are amazing at forcing themselves to read books in their target language or to write blogs in their target language, and this helps them practice. I'm not that person. I have tried to read a book in Spanish repeatedly, and it has failed every time. But the courses forced me to do it because I had homework or essays that I had to write about what I had read or about a particular topic. And so that for me was a way that worked well. And community college courses are cheap. at least for me, compared to, the university I went to. So I, took a course like once a year. So I've taken maybe 2 or 3 courses over the span of this language learning experience. And they were all advanced level, like grammar, writing sort of Spanish courses. And this really helped me a lot. So, yeah, I started this process 2 years ago, and I have gotten to the point now where my ability in Spanish has actually helped me land my current job, which is crazy because I never thought in a million years that this is where this journey would lead. But I was teaching high school chemistry for the past 3 years, regular. I took the honors level, the college prep level, the low level, and I never saw Spanish being related to my job because as far as I knew, it wasn't. Chemistry, Spanish, completely opposite ends of the spectrum. But I happened to throw that I can speak Spanish on a resume, and I was offered a job as a bilingual science teacher. Didn't even know this kind of job existed. But I still teach chemistry. I teach science to students who are new to the country, who don't know English yet. And so it's a combination of teaching them science, but also teaching them English, and then teaching them skills that can help them succeed in our high schools here in the U.S. and in a career, in a job here in the U.S. So I say all this to say you don't know where language learning can take you. And you can become bilingual. You can learn another language without ever leaving your country. I still have yet to travel outside of the United States, which actually is really sad, and I hope to do that someday soon. But I learned Spanish, and I never left. And I think a lot of times people think, I have to go to the country and spend a year there to learn the language. Not true at all. In fact, many times that happens. I knew a girl that spent a year in Argentina. She came back, her Spanish was still lower than mine. Like, she didn't speak much Spanish. And I was shocked. I was like, you were in Argentina for a year. But it goes to show that has nothing to do with it. Are you throwing yourself into a community where you're forced to use the language? That is what is going to determine your success in the language. So I hope you got something from this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to try this. I've never done, really video blogging or anything on YouTube. But I've learned so much in this process, and I know there's so many people going through this journey, and so I want to share what I've learned and what I'm doing with everybody, with the communities out there. And so I thank you for tuning in. I'm going to post another video where I speak some Spanish so you can hear my level of Spanish, and feel free to critique or to just listen in. All right, well, that is all, and peace.
Tengo tantas ganas